Welcome to the Power Book of Podcasts. Unlock your potential with powerful book summaries that inspire personal growth and broaden your understanding of the world. Each week, we explore life-changing ideas, from leadership to mindset strategies to keys for happiness and success. Learn actionable insights to apply in your daily life. Join our growing community of thinkers and seekers. Like, comment, and hit that subscribe button now. It's time to supercharge your mind with the Power Book of Podcasts.
Hey, you welcome to a deep dive into the power of everyday courage.
Oh.
We're going to be exploring this through the lens of Mel Robbins' 5-second rule.
Okay.
You've shared some excerpts from her book with us.
Right.
And I have to admit, the idea of a simple countdown like changing your life has always kind of intrigued me.
Yeah. It's
Right.
It is fascinating how such a simple concept can have such a profound impact.
Right. Like, could 5, 4, 3, 2, 1G actually be the key to unlocking like some hidden potential?
Yeah.
Let's find out. So I know you've dug into this material.
I have.
So walk me through the basics.
Okay.
What is this 5-second rule?
All right.
And why does it work?
Well, the core idea is that we often hesitate to take action even when we know we should. It's that moment where you hit the snooze button instead of getting up for that run.
Right.
Or you stay silent in a meeting when you have a brilliant idea. Robbins argues that the 5-second rule is like a circuit breaker for that hesitation. It's about interrupting your default thinking patterns and taking action before your mind can talk you out of it.
I can definitely relate to that feeling of knowing I should do something, but then getting stuck in like overthinking mode.
Yeah.
So is this rule purely about willpower?
Well,
Or is there some like science behind it?
it's actually more about neuroscience than willpower.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
When you set a goal, your brain starts scanning for opportunities to achieve it. It's like your instincts are primed for action, but then the prefrontal cortex,
Right.
the part of your brain responsible for planning and decision-making, kicks in and starts analyzing all the potential risks and downsides.
So our brains are kind of working against us in a way.
Exactly. And that's where the 5-second rule comes in. By counting down and acting immediately, you're essentially short-circuiting that overthinking loop.
Okay.
And tapping into your instinctual drive to achieve your goals.
That makes so much sense. Robbins talks about like a personal aha moment that led her to develop this rule.
Right.
Didn't it involve a rocket launch?
Yes.
No.
She was struggling with a lot of personal challenges at the time, feeling stuck and unmotivated.
Right.
One morning, as she watched a rocket launch on TV, she was struck by the countdown sequence.
Okay.
She realized that the same principle could be applied to overcoming her own inertia.
So it's not about waiting for like motivation or inspiration to strike.
No.
It's about creating your own momentum by simply taking that first step.
Precisely.
Okay.
And Robin stresses that the rule is all about bridging that gap between knowing what we should do and actually doing it. It's about taking action even if it's imperfect, rather than getting paralyzed by analysis.
That's such a powerful concept. It
Yeah.
reminds me of something I read about Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on the bus.
Oh, yeah.
That seemingly small act of defiance like sparked a movement
Absolutely.
and changed the course of history.
It did. That's a perfect example of what Robbins calls everyday courage.
Right.
It's not about grand gestures or heroic feats. It's about those small daily pushes we give ourselves to do things that feel difficult or uncertain.
Okay.
In Rosa Parks' case, it was a 5-second decision.
Right.
That had a monumental impact.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many opportunities we miss
Right.
because we hesitate or let fear hold us back.
Exactly. We often underestimate the power of those small, courageous actions.
Yeah.
But the 5-second rule helps us tap into that power by overcoming our natural inclination to overthink and delay.
So we've established that the rule is about action and everyday courage.
Right.
But why is it so hard to act on our instincts in the first place?
Well, from a neurological perspective, our brains are wired to prioritize safety and avoid uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
We're constantly scanning our environment for potential threats, which can lead to overanalyzing situations and getting trapped in a cycle of worry and inaction.
So it's like our brains are trying to protect us, but in doing so, they often end up holding us back.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that while we can't always control our feelings,
Right.
we can always choose how we act. We have the power to override those instinctive impulses and consciously choose a different course of action.
It's almost like we have two selves.
Yeah.
The one that wants to stay safe and comfortable.
Right.
And the one that wants to grow and evolve.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And Robbins argues that the 5-second rule is a tool to bridge the gap between those two selves. It's about choosing action over inaction.
Right.
Even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain.
This all makes me think about professional athletes.
Oh, yeah.
They push past incredible levels of fatigue and discomfort to achieve peak performance.
That's a brilliant comparison.
Okay.
They're not letting their feelings dictate their actions. They're choosing to act in alignment with their goals, regardless of how their bodies are feeling.
It's inspiring to think that we can cultivate that same kind of mental discipline in our own lives.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that's where techniques like anchor thoughts come in.
Right.
Robbins talks about using these positive mental cues to shift her focus away from fear.
Okay.
And toward a more empowered state of mind.
So instead of getting caught in like a spiral of negative thoughts, we can intentionally choose a thought that helps us feel grounded, confident, or motivated.
Yeah.
Like a mental reset button.
Exactly.
Okay.
Robbins shares a personal example of using this technique to overcome her fear of flying. Instead of dwelling on her anxiety, she would focus on positive images of her destination.
Okay.
And the purpose of her trip, anchoring her mind to a more empowering thought.
Because it's about consciously choosing what we want to focus on.
Yes.
Rather than letting our fears dictate our experience.
Exactly.
That's a game changer.
It really is. And by practicing this type of mental discipline, we can start to rewire our brains to respond to challenging situations with courage and resilience.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to see how the 5-second rule could be applied in so many different areas of life.
Right.
But I'm curious to learn more about the specific benefits.
Okay.
What are some of the ways this rule can help us build confidence,
Right.
pursue our passions, and overcome procrastination?
Well, let's start with confidence.
Okay.
Robbins makes a compelling argument for the connection between the 5-second rule and building genuine confidence.
Oh.
It's not about faking it till you make it. It's about taking actions that genuinely affirm your sense of self.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay.
Tell me more about how this works in practice.
Well, Robbins once gave a talk at Cisco Systems.
Okay.
And challenged the audience to introduce themselves to 3 strangers using the 5-second rule. One engineer who took on the challenge described feeling a sense of liberation and personal power as a result.
Right.
He even ended up chasing down the CEO of Cisco on a bike path to introduce himself.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is.
It shows how a seemingly small act of courage can lead to unexpected opportunities and a boost in confidence.
And it's not just about outward confidence.
Right.
Robbins also explores the theme of pursuing passion.
Okay.
She uses the example of a woman named Jo who was working as a banker, but felt unfulfilled.
Right.
Her true passion was nutrition.
Okay.
And after years of hesitation, she finally decided to make a career change.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being stuck in a job that doesn't light them up.
Yeah, I think so.
What was Joe's experience like using the 5-second rule?
Well, for Jo, the 5-second rule was the initial push she needed to overcome her fears and start taking steps towards a more fulfilling life.
Okay.
She started small, taking online courses and attending workshops. And eventually she gained enough confidence to quit her job and launch her own nutrition consulting business.
That's so inspiring.
It is.
It shows that it's never too late to pursue our passions.
Right.
And that the 5-second rule can be that catalyst for action.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's about taking that first step, even if it's scary or uncertain.
Right.
And trusting that the momentum will build from there. Yeah.
It's amazing how the 5-second rule can be applied to such different aspects of life, you know, from building confidence to pursuing your passions.
Right.
Speaking of facing challenges, let's dive into something that probably resonates with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Procrastination. I'd love to hear more about Robin's take on this, like, universal struggle.
Yeah, it's a topic she tackles head on, and she actually introduces a distinction that I found quite insightful.
Okay.
She talks about 2 types of procrastination.
Okay.
Destructive and productive.
That's interesting. I've always thought of procrastination as like a negative thing. So I'm curious to hear about the productive.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Productive procrastination is about intentionally setting aside a creative project. Or innovative idea, allowing your mind to wander and generate new insights. It's that feeling of stepping away from a problem only to have the solution pop into your head later as if by magic.
So it's not always a bad thing to take a break from something and let our subconscious mind work on it.
Exactly.
It's almost like giving the problem space to breathe.
Precisely. Robbins even mentions that learning about productive procrastination was a relief for her, especially while writing this very book.
Right.
It helped her to understand that taking breaks and allowing for mental downtime can actually enhance creativity.
That makes me feel better about all those times I've stepped away from a project,
Yeah.
only to find myself suddenly inspired later on.
Yeah.
But what about the other kind of procrastination?
Right.
The one that leaves us feeling stressed and overwhelmed?
Yeah.
The destructive kind of?
Yes. Destructive procrastination is what most people think of when they hear the word.
Okay.
It's that feeling of knowing you should be working on something,
Right.
but finding every excuse to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
This type of procrastination often stems from fear of failure,
Right.
fear of judgment,
Yeah.
or simply feeling overwhelmed by the task at hand.
I can definitely relate to that. It's like a battle between knowing what you need to do
Right.
and feeling paralyzed by all those negative thoughts and anxieties.
Yeah. It's a common struggle, and Robbins argues that a key to overcoming destructive procrastination is to ask yourself,
Okay.
what would the future you do?
Okay.
This involves envisioning the person you want to become and making decisions that align with that future self.
It's like shifting your perspective from the present moment,
Right.
where you might be feeling overwhelmed or unmotivated, to a future where you've achieved your goals.
Exactly.
It's a powerful way to connect with your deeper motivations.
It is. And this is where the 5-second rule can be incredibly helpful.
Yep.
By using the countdown, you interrupt the cycle of procrastination and create a window of opportunity to act in alignment with your future self.
So it's about taking back control from the voice of fear and doubt
Right.
and stepping into the driver's seat of your own life.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
Robbins also emphasizes the importance of being present in our relationships.
Okay.
She shares a poignant story about her father-in-law
Right.
who, facing brain surgery, expressed gratitude for a life lived without hesitation.
That's a powerful reminder that life is precious.
It is.
And we shouldn't let fear hold us back from experiencing it fully.
Right.
It's about taking those 5 seconds to connect with loved ones,
Yes.
to express our feelings, and to create meaningful moments.
Absolutely. Robbins reminds us that we often let fear prevent us from having those important conversations.
Right.
Or expressing our love and appreciation for those who matter most.
It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life
Yeah.
and forget to slow down and appreciate the people we care about. Robin's story is a beautiful reminder to prioritize those connections.
It is. It all ties back to this idea of choosing courage over comfort, of taking those 5 seconds to act,
Right.
even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain.
And that brings us to another key theme in Robin's book,
Yeah.
embracing our authentic selves
Right.
and living in alignment with our values and goals.
Exactly.
It's about having the courage to be true to ourselves, even if it means going against the grain or challenging societal expectations.
Robbins argues that true confidence comes from knowing who we are and what we stand for,
Right.
and then having the courage to act in accordance with that truth.
It's about identifying the things that truly matter to us,
Yeah.
listening to our hearts, and then taking action to create a life that reflects those priorities.
Right. It's about choosing our own path.
Rather than following a script that's been written for us.
And that journey of self-discovery can be challenging
Right.
because it often requires us to confront our fears,
Yeah.
step outside of our comfort zones, and make choices that may not always be easy or popular.
It's about being willing to stand out,
Yeah.
to be different, to embrace our uniqueness,
Right.
and let our true selves shine. It takes courage to go against the norm
It does.
and follow our own internal compass.
Robbins uses numerous examples throughout the book of people who have taken this leap of faith,
Right.
from entrepreneurs who launched successful businesses to individuals who made significant life changes, all because they had the courage to listen to their hearts and act on their dreams. Their stories demonstrate that the rewards of living authentically are immeasurable. Greater happiness, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose that can't be found anywhere else.
Their stories are so inspiring.
They are.
It's a reminder that we all have unique gifts and talents to share with the world. But sometimes we need a little push
Yeah.
to overcome those doubts and fears
Right.
and step into our full potential.
And that's where the 5-second rule comes in. It's that initial spark, that moment of decision that can set us on a new course.
This has been so insightful. We've explored the science behind the rule,
Yeah.
its applications in building confidence and pursuing passion, and the importance of living authentically.
Right.
But I'm wondering,
Yeah.
are there any situations where the 5-second rule might not be the best approach? Are there any potential downsides or caveats to consider?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that the 5-second rule is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used effectively or ineffectively.
Right.
There are definitely situations where it might not be the best approach,
Right.
especially if it's used to bypass careful consideration or to make impulsive decisions that could have negative consequences.
So it's not about blindly reacting to every situation with a 5-second countdown.
Exactly. It's about using the rule strategically to overcome hesitation and take aligned action. Right. For example, if you're facing a complex decision with long-term implications, it's important to take the time to gather information, weigh your options, and consider the potential outcomes.
Right.
In those situations, the 5-second rule can be helpful for taking the first step toward gathering information or seeking advice.
Okay.
But it shouldn't replace thoughtful deliberation.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's about using the rule as a catalyst for action, but also recognizing that there are times when a more measured approach is needed.
Right.
So it's about finding that balance between instinct and thoughtful consideration.
Precisely. And it's also important to remember that the 5-second rule is not a magic bullet.
Right.
It's a tool that can help you overcome hesitation and take action, but it's ultimately up to you to put in the work and make consistent effort toward your goals.
It's a reminder that personal growth is an ongoing journey.
It is.
And requires dedication and perseverance. There are no shortcuts to success. But the 5-second rule can be a valuable tool along the way.
Exactly. It's about embracing the process, learning from setbacks, and celebrating small victories along the way. And it's about remembering that even small acts of courage consistently practiced can lead to extraordinary results.
It's so empowering to realize that we have more control over our lives than we often think. You know, it's not about being fearless. It's about choosing courage in those moments of hesitation.
I completely agree. The beauty of the 5-second rule is that it reminds us that we all have that inner strength, like a muscle that we can train and strengthen with practice.
And it's amazing how it can be applied to such a wide range of challenges, from everyday procrastination to bigger life decisions.
Robbins talks about the importance of self-compassion, especially when we inevitably stumble or fall short of our expectations.
Right.
She reminds us that everyone struggles, everyone makes mistakes. It's about learning from those experiences and giving ourselves permission to try again.
That message of self-compassion is so important. You know, it's easy to get caught up in self-criticism, especially when things don't go according to plan.
Right.
But it's in those moments of setbacks that we need kindness and understanding the most, both for ourselves and others.
Absolutely. Robbins emphasizes that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about embracing those imperfections and using them as opportunities for growth and learning.
This whole conversation has been incredibly insightful and inspiring.
Yeah, it has.
You know, at the beginning of this deep dive, I mentioned being intrigued by the 5-second rule, but never really putting it into practice.
Right.
I'm curious, have you personally used this rule to overcome a challenge or achieve a goal?
I have, actually. I used to struggle with public speaking.
Oh, yeah.
I would get so nervous before presentations that I could barely think straight.
Right.
But then I started using the 5-second rule to interrupt that anxiety spiral.
Okay.
Whenever I felt those nerves creeping in, I would count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just start talking.
Wow.
It didn't magically eliminate my nerves, but it shifted my focus from my fear to the message I wanted to share.
That's such a great example of how the rule can be used to rewire our automatic responses to challenging situations.
Right.
It's not about suppressing those feelings. It's about acknowledging them and then choosing a different course of action.
Exactly. It's about taking back control from those habitual patterns and consciously choosing to step outside our comfort zone.
Thinking back on everything we've discussed today, what's been the most impactful takeaway for you? What's the one thing you hope listeners will remember from this deep dive?
For me, it's the reminder that courage is not this extraordinary quality reserved for superheroes.
Okay.
It's something that we all possess, something we can access in those everyday moments of decision. The 5-second rule is a simple but powerful tool that can help us tap into that inner courage and create a life that feels aligned with our true selves.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
Robbins quotes Walt Disney, who said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them.
Oh, I love that.
That quote, combined with the power of the 5-second rule, is a call to action for all of us to embrace our dreams and take those brave steps towards making them a reality.
It's a reminder that we are all capable of creating extraordinary lives.
Yes.
But it starts with those small, everyday acts of courage.
Mm-hmm.
The 5-second rule can be that initial push, that spark that ignites the fire within us.
Wow.
So I encourage you as you go about your day to notice those moments of hesitation and
right.
ask yourself, what would the future you do?
And in those moments, remember that you have the power to choose.
Yes.
Choose courage, choose action.
Right.
Choose to create a life that is truly your own.
This deep dive has been a fantastic exploration of everyday courage. I hope you'll join us again for our next deep dive into another fascinating topic.